Hello. I am going to go over my holy grail here. We have several different ways on how to determine the top, and it's been able to be reproduced on mostly 2013 and 17, but at least one time on 2011. So it's pretty convincing, and it's showing that we see a 207K to 250K top. So let me dive into that a little bit. I wasn't going to post a YouTube video until I saw Crypto Click talk about his range here, that he uses like the previous cycle and the RSI and the MFI to kind of determine where he thinks the top is going to be. But my way of getting it is completely different on how he got his. So it's nice to see the confluence between different techniques here. So let's get into it from scratch. This is going to be about a 15-minute video. So strap in, you're going to love this. Okay, let's start with the 0.5 fib. So I'll show you what this is here. It's a log fib, 0.5 right here, which defines, the top, and of course it defines the bottom, and defines the middle. So not based on price, because the middle of 32 is 16, and the middle would be like up here based on price. It's in the middle based on log, which is visually it's the equal distance between the top and the bottom. That's where the 0.5 is. Okay, lesson over. Okay, so that's where the 0.5 is for 2011. And note where it hits right here. There's a distinct bounce right there. So let's look at 2013, roughly about there. There is clearly a distinct bounce at that 0.5. Let me zoom in just a touch here. So distinct bounce, right? And another thing to note, it never touches it again, right? That's a big one. That's a big one, okay? So then you look at this one, bottom to top, the 0.5. It wicks. Like, it doesn't hit precisely every time, but like how more close can you want to get? Like, you can't really ask for more close of a drop right on. It's like that opportunity's over. So if you had to guess where the 0.5 fib is for our current cycle, you're looking for a pretty distinct area that we touch and go, and we don't revisit it. It's kind of, I don't know, it's up for arguments, but it's either here, at the 28, what is it, 28.6, or it's the January wick, which I almost argue what it is, which is at 27.6. Okay, so in either case, we will measure kind of in that area, and when you get above 207K, who's counting anyway? So let's look. Bring the 0.5 up. I'm going to just drag it in between the two, roughly about right there. And that's 255K. If I drag it to the 28.6 or so, that's about 262K. If I drag it to the 27.4-ish, it's 27.6, I believe, that's 244K. So I'll just leave it, let's just say right there, I suppose, huh? So that's the initial one, and I think this is the biggest one because it applies for every single cycle, right? The fact that it does it here in 2011, 2013, 2017, are we going to stop that pattern? Well, until it breaks, I'm going to assume not. Because there's confluence and so many other things between these previous cycles that leaves me convinced that we are following some sort of, like, I guess the easy ways to put it is just pattern, okay? And each pattern seems to get a little bit more defined with each cycle, as it seems to extend a little bit further and further and further. So, okay, so let's move on to the next pattern that I've been seeing. Let's do the range. Okay, so from the previous, I can't do it for 2011 because it requires a previous bull cycle. So let's do it for 2013. again, it's going to be the same log fib, but it's going to be a range between the 1272 and the 1618. And these are the orange ones. I'm going to do lines for these. So it defines a range right here. So between this all-time low and this top, I mean, if you had to define a range, especially above the previous all-time high, if you had to define a range from here to here, it's like, yeah, it's right here. I mean, there's no debating it here. So let's do it for 2017. Same thing as if you have to define a range before or beyond the previous all-time high, it's going to be in this area right here, right? 2 points of contention. You have support and you have resistance. That's where, I mean, I would argue that range is. So is it any different for 2021? I'm going to say no. And when you see this fib, it's like, hell no, it's not. Not at all. That's picture perfect, my friend. Look at that. You can't get much better than that, my friend. So the only reason why, you have wicks way above it in 2013 is because the price is so low and the price is so incredibly volatile. It didn't last up there for more than like, I don't know, half an hour, maybe? I'm not sure. But yeah, so another thing is I've defined a range. What about it? Well, a couple things. Number one is that it just shows that each cycle has this distinct pattern, and we have not changed it yet, this pattern either. So that we have that going for us. So it's kind of like, okay, well, if we're continuing that range, that pattern, why should this 0.5 pattern change, right? Why shouldn't 244 be the top? Okay, it's just food for thought. I know, I understand it could be different, but I mean, I'm going to go with back-tested speculation. So the 2.272 marks close to the top. It's just a touch below the previous cycle. Excuse me. It's just a touch below the all-time high. That's what I meant to say. Oops, I don't need to draw another one. So 272. Just a touch below the all-time high. So if we draw the 272 right now, that is a touch below, well, it's a touch below the 1, which is 244, but the 272, the 2.272 is 207K, okay? So that's the second guess, and that's going to be on the lower end, really. Imagine me saying that, on the lower end of predictions. Let's look at 2017 as far as how that fib played out. So these are weekly candles. So we weren't here for more than like, a week and a half tops, right? So once we hit that, if we hit 207K, you better have like packed your bags. Well, excuse me, I should say you should have like sold your bags, right? Instead of holding on. Although it does go up another 20% or something. Let's just measure this out. Wow, 20% exactly. That's interesting. What is it for this? 15. Interesting. So 15, 20%. Let me look at this. Wow. That's 18%. Interesting. Jeez. The patterns, the confluence, it's crazy. So this 2.272 is roughly 15 to 20% shy of the all-time high. So if we reach that level, play incredibly carefully. I don't expect it to hang on to that area for very long. So yeah, be careful. So the third one, anyway. Let's go with, we'll go with the more, it's kind of a lengthy one, but it's convoluted. I wanted to be able to determine where the 0.5 was going to be ahead of time. Let's just say, like, I'm gonna kind of block off where the cycle is right now. Let's just say that we're in, October of 2020. And you're looking for like, where's the 0.5 going to be or something, I wanted to find it that way. I didn't want to have to see it in hindsight, because you can only really find it in hindsight. I'm just wondering, is there a way to find it without hindsight? So let me kind of dive into how I actually found a way. Imagine that I found a way. So we'll see if it works. Of course, with everything else, we'll see if it works. So I'm going to use the previous all-time high to all-time low. We are going to get rid of these. I'm going to keep the 786, and we're going to apply that for each cycle. Right there. And last one right there. Okay, so I'm going to actually place a fib on top of a fib. Kind of odd, right? But hear me out. So you have to take the bottom here, and then you got to drag the 1. So where my cursor is, that's where the 1 is. The line that you're seeing is the 786. So I'm going to just drag it right into the middle here. Okay, and I'm going to draw it to the 1.5. So if I draw from the bottom to the 786, this is the 1, the new 1.0 fib. This is where the 1.5 points to. It's just a touch below the actual 0.5. Okay, so there's that. Let's look at 2017. So I'm going to drag the 1 to roughly the middle of this, just pixels away. And that one's just pinpoint. It's right on. Did I not draw the... Oh no, it's just right on top. It's right on top of the 0.5, obviously. Interesting, right? Okay, so let's see about this. I'm gonna drag it right here. It's somewhere in there. So it's like right on top of my predicted 0.5, which we wicked down into in January. It was like January 6th or something. We hit that. So that's why I kind of think that's the 0.5, because we don't ever go that low ever again. But yeah, I could see the 0.5 being up here too. So, all right, so what's the significance of that? So number one, it's again showing that each cycle is following this pattern. The 1.5 is right by the 0.5. The 1.5 is literally right on top of the 0.5. Is it any different here? It doesn't appear so. So what can I do with that information? Okay, what's the 0.5, right? The 0.5 is halfway. What is the 1.5? Well, that is supposed to be halfway. So what's the 1 then? Well, the 1 is actually 3, because 1.5 is half of 3. So if I find the 3, I thought I had a 3. Am I blind? I'll have to type them out. Get rid of this. Okay, so the 3. It's a little bit high for 2013, just a touch high for 2013, right? And then I think it's just about perfect actually for 2017. Let's type out the 3. It's right there. Let me actually go here. Let's do that line. I'm gonna try to keep it consistent here. Can't remember what I did. Was it this one? Something like that. So it's pretty much perfect for 2017. Let's look at our current cycle. What is the 0.3? Okay, that's that. The 0.3 is roughly about 244K. Or not the 0.3, excuse me, the 3 fib, rather, right? Okay, so this obviously looks like a mess, but I just took you through every bit of it. I'll just kind of define it for this cycle here. You have this line here, which is a 786, which is between the all-time high, previous all-time low, and then you drag a new fib from here to the 786. So this is the new 1.0 fib, and the 1.5 predicts where the 0.5 is, and also, in turn, it predicts where the top is, the 3.0. And it comes really close for 2013. It's spot on for 2017. Is it going to be any different for 2021 into 2022? And if you are not entertained yet, let's just do one more for the hell of it. So remember the range that I defined earlier, right here. Range. Okay, so let's just get rid of all these again, so you can see what we're working with. So I'm going to use that range. Let's go. Let me actually define this because it's kind of cool to do it this way. I think it's non-log. The first time I'll do non-log. This, the 618, and the 3618. Okay, I believe that's it. So you place the 0 at the bottom of this range. which is that wick right there, which is like the 0.5, right? 0.5. Oh, I guess there's another way to do this too. Okay, so then the 618 is roughly the top of that range, roughly, right? And the 3618 is the top, so that's really close, right? Okay, let's look at the bottom of this range here. Okay, and you drag the 618 up to about the top. Oh, would you look at that? The 3618 defines the top. It's really close. So if we kind of kept the same thing, I'm going to use that January wick because I think that might be the 0.5, right? And then I'm going to keep the 618 just a touch under the top. Right about there. That's 242K. I mean, it just keeps going, you know, like it's impossible to ignore this. Yeah, so that's a fourth way to kind of figure out where the top's going to be. Let's look at just one more thing, which doesn't really define a top as far as I'm aware. There is another fib that like defines the top, but this one is just more like defining like where this 0.5 fib is, right? I'm gonna actually go back to where I had everything up, and oh, I can't go back. Oh, can I? Yes. Okay. So let me draw out. We're gonna do this 1618 in a non-log fashion. Right here. I'm gonna make this a new color. Let's go with orange, I guess. Okay, so the 1618 non-log. So getting away from log. So if you drag from the bottom to the top again, the previous cycle, that 1618 is basically the 0.5. Okay. Kind of interesting. And then you do that for 2017. That's basically the 0.5. It's a little bit higher. It's not as good as my predictive one. And then where's the 1618 for the cycle? I wonder where it's gonna be. Right at the bottom. Right at the bottom of that range. Again, it's just pointing to these consistencies that happen time and time again. It's impossible to ignore at this point that we are following previous cycles. So I've got like 7+ ways that I'm determining a 200K plus market cycle top. Anyway, so that's about it for me. Hope you learned something. How much time do we got on this video? Oh, we went overboard. 19 minutes. All right, thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.